Hi.
Hello.
Does it work? Not yet.
No, I've still got your beautiful picture.
Which is now accurate since I...
Back to springtime. Here we are. Yay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Let me take out some distractions.
Yes. I was just
How's Luca?
He's fine. He's good. He had a rather nasty fall and he was complaining of a headache. Yep. We all had headaches from going into, I don't know, that day was a bit of a funny day. It was a beautiful day, but yeah. I was like, oh, I don't think I want to leave you. Hello.
Hello.
I was just chatting to Eliza about Luca and just saying how he was fine, but how I just didn't want to say good night. Bye. Yes.
Very understandable.
Yeah.
So it's scarf day.
Yes. I pinched this one. This one's the one that I just wove for Miller, and I just like, oh, I think I need a bit of bright cuddly.
Does it feel nice to wear?
It does. It does. Although she wanted it really crunchy, so she wouldn't let me wet finish it very much. She wanted it all stiff and like
more tactile.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's just your plants are saying hi to my plants. They're like, oh, hello. It's just like
Always interesting to see how that flows back and forth, right?
yeah, it was like as soon as Kim popped on, it was like very much like step aside, let the other introductions happen.
Hang on, here comes the other one. Don't leave me out. Don't leave me out. There we go.
Yeah. And my flowering begonia wanted to come in, but now, so I moved her back, but she's still behind me now, but she's there. Over to her.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And that one on your stairs, Eliza, was like, don't forget me.
No, I especially placed it back. Yeah. I had all my plants were in the bathtub, and they had a really good shower.
Yep. Yay.
And they're still dripping, so they're not all here with me. But this one insisted it wanted to come back in the house to be with us and all of your plants.
Yay. I've had such a lovely couple of days with the plants. Yeah. I have to show you, I had a beautiful day. When was it? Not yesterday. It must have been the day before, was it? 2 days ago. I went for a walk and I was just walking along a dirt lane not so far from here, and I looked up and this large shrub just caught my eye, like it had called my attention up. I didn't hear it, but I looked up to see it calling me, and it's like, hey, come over here. I've got lots of color. And I came over and I noticed its berries, and I'm like, oh, really? Okay. That sounds cool. I'll come back later on. And I came back later on with a basket to pick some berries and got the most incredible dye from these berries I have ever seen. I've never even heard of natural dye being so phenomenal. So I have to show you. It's down here. I haven't actually showed you them all, Kim.
Oh, there's more.
There's more. So this was the...
Wow.
I wasn't really planning on showing you, but I just have to because...
We don't mind, do we?
No.
It
was so funny because it was like... I do often experience that when plants talk, they're often just so matter of fact. It was like, hey, I've got lots of color. That was it. It was like I could take it or leave it, and I could have missed it, and I could have dismissed it as just a weird random thought in my head, because it really wasn't as words. It was me just interpreting whatever it was sending to me into those words. But I mean,
Oh, wow.
hang on. Oh, can I do it? Check out this last one.
Oh,
Oh.
oh my gosh.
Gorgeous.
And I'm thinking now it's not a privet, but
Okay.
the plant it is, I don't know how it's growing wild in Australia, so I have to do more research.
Beautiful.
So what is it then if it's not a privet?
Someone just sent me a message saying they thought it was a black chokeberry. And I was just doing some Googling about it, because I've been more interested in doing the dyeing with it than figuring out exactly what it was just yet. And spreading
That's
some
relevant,
pictures around.
really.
Yes. So I went back today and picked some more berries. It was very keen for me to pick some more and spread a few seeds, but I had to leave the top ones. It very much wanted me to leave the top ones for the birds.
As it should be.
Yeah.
So this is new to me. Can you talk a little bit about the process of what happens after you pick the berries?
Sure. So it's really very simple process, although it has got a few stages. So get rid of all the leaves, put the berries in a large saucepan of water, covered, and just put them on a low heat to bring them up. I don't know what temperature, but if I had to guess, I'd say about 80 degrees. It's just until the sap starts coming out of the berries. You really don't want to boil them ever. Most of the time, if it comes to boiling, you lose a lot of the color. The heat will destroy the color. So you want to get it up to about 80 degrees and keep it there for about an hour till the saps, like the juices start coming out of the berries, and then just turn it off and let it sit overnight. And then squish the berries up. If you don't know what the berries are, it's probably best to do it with gloved hands, although I often don't. My clients will often attest to me turning up with the most interesting coloured hands. It's much better via Zoom than when I'm turning up for a massage and I'm going, I'll just keep my hands over here. And so these skeins were mordanted with alum, and some of them with alum and cream of tartar. So the cream of tartar ones, I didn't actually label them because I'm really terrible at keeping records. The cream of tartar ones are slightly pinker. So I'll get rid of that one. So of these 4, I would say those 2 would just, those 2 would be just alum, and these 2 would be alum and cream of tartar. There's just the faintest difference. And so to alum the wool, just dissolving some alum salt, which is an aluminium salt, sometimes bound with different things. It's a relatively safe compound. It gets put in pickles, or it used to get put in pickles all the time as a, stop them going soggy, keeps things crisp.
And the purpose of a mordant is to hold the dye to the material, or?
Yeah, so most natural dyes don't have an ability to bind to a fibre. So this is wool, so it's a protein fibre. So mordanting is you're wanting some sort of metal salt to bind to the protein fibre, and then the dye part binds to the metal salt.
Yeah.
The dye part can't actually bind to the protein.
Yeah.
If it's a cellulose, so a plant fibre, you need to treat the fibre with tannin first. So you do a tannin treatment, and then some dyes you can just do straight onto the tannin, or you do tannin and then a mordant, because the mordant will bind to the tannin, and then
Yeah.
you dye. So once you you just heat the wool in the solution, that salt solution, for an hour, let it cool. Usually I didn't, because I didn't have any pre-mordanted wool, so I went straight from my mordant solution into the dye bath, making sure they're at a relatively the same temperature so you don't felt your wool. And then simmered them, well, not even simmered this, kept them in the hot dye bath. These were only in there for about 10 minutes. Like they took so quickly. And then the darker one I left in the pot for a couple of hours. And then the green ones, the paler green ones, I just rinsed in some water that had some washing soda in there to change the pH. So it's a pH sensitive dye. And this one, I put the washing soda into a little bit of the dye bath so that it, so then you're getting that changed pH dye soaking in, and left it in there for a bit. So I'm a little bit like
Treasure.
I know, I'm just like, oh, thank you. You were not lying to me when you said you had a lot of colour. Eliza, like with natural dyeing, you can get some really good colours, but it's usually a fairly laborious process to get colours anywhere near this. So to get colours so deep, so rich, and so simply is pretty amazing. So fingers crossed it's light fast. But I won't really be able to test that until summertime, because the sun we've got at the moment is not going to be really. I'll have to send some to you, Kim. You might be able to help out a bit more.
Sure, I'll happily receive some.
Yeah. And I had some avocado dyed skeins that have bronze, like avocado often starts out pink and will turn a beigey colour. I've got some that I did about a year ago, and it's still quite nice, and all they go so nicely together.
I was wondering about that. Like in fashion, you have the color of the year.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky, you'll have a great season. And if not, then not.
Yeah.
Based on your natural colors.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like the natural dyes like you're using now, I suppose we all look good in that, no matter what color.
They do seem to play with skin tones in such a better way. However, having said that, I did do a series, a warp of natural dyed weaving that really was very unflattering to me. Those pale yellowy green, it just was not great. I might pop, I think I have got a little scarf left, so I can go and grab it and show you. But the interesting thing about it is they go really well with themselves. Like you can't get it's very hard to get a bad combination when you're putting them together. Yeah. And the thing that I love, particularly about making natural dyes from our local environment, and I was really thinking about this today when I was going for a walk this morning, is how I was looking at the river, and there was there's an Aboriginal voice in my inner ear. It was like, there's no fish left in the river. And I'm like, yeah, well, you wouldn't want to be eating out of that. And I was suddenly like, it was so apparent at just how removed we are from our environment. Like the idea, like he was so distressed and so upset that there was no food left in the river. Like how could we have let our environment get to the point where there's no food? We can't eat from our natural surroundings. And that used to be a way of us connecting to and making us have a sense of place. So this sense of place is really lost. And I think we started talking about that, and I hadn't really thought. But by making our colour from our environment and wearing that close to us, it's a really beautiful way of helping to reintegrate into the energies of place.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that I've had a lot of requests over the last 6 months, I guess, kind of, sort of, yeah. Like plants asking for bodily fluids.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the olden days, and I'm not suggesting we go forward to latrines, but everything disappears in the sewage system.
Yeah.
Plants, they read us.
Yeah.
Like having a pee in nature, which is illegal in the Netherlands. You can get fined for that.
Yeah.
Really?
But,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's up to 140 euros if they catch you.
Mm.
Yeah. And it deprives the plants of information about us.
Mm.
Like maybe you heard about it when you're planting food seeds. One of the tips is to keep the seeds in your mouth for a little while.
Yeah, I think
so that the seeds can read your genetic makeup and adjust to that.
Yeah, that was in one of the ringing cedars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also with bodily fluids, they can read us and know what components our bodies need extra of for a while. Yeah. And by taking our bodily fluids out of the natural cycle, plants they have less information.
Mm. Mm.
And wearing their colors is a way for us to reintegrate nature in us. And how can that be more of a cycle?
Yeah. Yeah. I once wrote an entire workshop about integrating, would be about 15 years ago or so, maybe longer, gosh, maybe more like 20, about integrating into our environment through natural dyes. Didn't really know where it was coming from then. I just wrote this whole thing. I never actually taught it. I just wrote it. It's like, oh, that's really cool. But now,
maybe now it's more time for it.
Now I understand it on such a different level. Then it was a really interesting idea, and now I understand just how much it can help to attune us, and how much more inner comfort and sense of peace we can have. You know how we've been talking about, I put out a question in one of the first chats we did about how can we feel more at home when we're not home, when home is this whole thing. And I think this might be part of the answer coming back for us, is like by actually allowing ourselves to integrate into the environment more, allows us to feel home wherever we are. Oh, and saying that just makes me want to hold these and go, oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a visible exchange going on.
Yeah. I had another beautiful experience this morning. I was walking and I looked up, and the most stunning elder was standing on the side of the river, and it just like called out to me. It's like, hello, can you please come and take a piece of me and plant me in your garden? And I'm like, oh, sure, you're very, very stunning. And I had to go and had to go through a lot of very wet grass right down to the river to get some. And the piece that it asked me to pick was one of its prime main stems. And usually if I'm taking a piece for a cutting, it will be harder wood down low or something that it doesn't care about, but it was very specific about that. And sometimes I will question myself, but it showed me exactly where it wanted me to break. And I'm usually like, if it actually breaks off perfectly where I think I've heard it tell me that then yes, I wasn't confusing that with some inner mental thought about please pick me, which one has to be careful with, because sometimes we can get a little bit, let's say, over enthusiastic with our egos going, oh, the plants wanted me to pick them and do all this. So it's that really fine line of walking, of going, wow, where is that communication? Because the way that plants communicate, certainly with me, it's like they're planting the thoughts directly into the same space that my inner mental talk comes from. So you have to be really acutely aware of the nature of my inner mental dialogue, so that I can notice the difference. And so sometimes I need little things to check in. It's like, is this me making it up, or is this the plant? But it snapped right off. This beautiful big arch just snapped right off, and it was so glorious. And as I was holding it, it's like, oh, you've got to make an oil out of the leaves. And I have worked with elder a lot. I've worked with elder spiritually and energetically, and I used elder to guide my students in my plant spirit attunement course, and Kim might want to talk about that a little bit, and done some wonderful journeys and worked with elder flower and elder berry a lot medicinally, but never worked with the leaves. But the leaves were very specific that I needed to make an infused oil with them. Mm-hmm. So I'm making an oil here, and it was about opening. What's coming through very much was about so it's very good for the ears, and opening those tubes and opening our hearing. I remember Shalom talking about bringing that through too when we did. I'm sure she won't mind me speaking of her. It's one of beautiful woman who works with plants, and we were doing a plant spirit journey together, and she brought that information back, and I hadn't thought of it. It's not, you don't really hear about it or see it written very much, but the elder stems, they're hollow, and so the elder helps everything that's hollow. So it's really good for the bone marrow and the bones, and helping with helping the tubes, and really good for our lungs, helping to clear those lung passages. But something about the infused oil helping to clear and make those blocked passages function more effectively. And as I'm saying that, I'm getting a vision of when the coronavirus first started coming out. I kept having visions of the branching pattern of the elder looks just like the branching pattern of our lungs. So I'll be interested to do a little bit of, hopefully not personal experimentation on how that oil goes with clearing lung congestion. But yeah, I think it would be definitely worthwhile a medicine exploring if one needs to.
Well, thank you for that. As you know, I have been a heavy smoker since I was 15. And I still am.
Mm.
And I do experience congestion at the moment, all the sinuses. It's not that I'm unwell, but there's a lot of mucus going on.
Yeah.
And I've been looking into what can I change to ease myself into a mild detox.
Mm.
This is information like I think elder is a plant that also lives here
Yeah.
and it grows in the wild. So it wouldn't be that hard to find a plant that knows what I need and is willing to gift it to me, including the information of how to use it. But this is a good start. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. So yeah, I would say the elder leaf oil in small amounts on the chest together with an elder flower tea, because that helps to thin. It breaks down the mucus.
Yeah. Well, I applaud my body for creating the mucus.
Yeah.
It's a good way for my body to have a barrier in between. Like the smoke not going directly into my lungs, but getting caught up in the mucus.
Yeah.
So what a great system bodies have to protect themselves, and thank you for that. And besides smoking less or not smoking at all, how else can I assist my body in becoming the even more vibrant and healthy and alive body that it is now, and increase on that?
Yeah. Yeah. I was pondering whether to share or not, or share in a different space, but I found that I was very attracted to smoking and couldn't unhook my ties to smoking. And I realized that I had confused drawing in light with drawing in smoke. And when I recognized that actually what I was craving was drawing light into my cells, and not wanting to smoke, then suddenly every time I tried to smoke, I would just cough, and then I just literally couldn't smoke anymore. So that was a pretty interesting realization. I had got into, it was like I had no it's like I had associated the rush and the excitement and the thing with this something that was exciting, and that had imprinted this idea that that was the light, and then that every time that I would do that, that's what my brain would just send out this signal, I want. And then and it was, that wasn't the only thing, but yeah, it helped me a lot. Yeah. Anyway, chat for another time. I'm like, oh,
you're loving that, aren't you?
I know. I wanted to send it to Eliza. I'm like, oh, that would be nice. Nice purple on your chest, on your lungs.
It would be a good color for me.
It would be perfect, wouldn't it?
Mm.
I have to I've got some more berries on the stove. I don't know if I've got any more. I have to hunt my shelves. I've got a lot of yarn up there, but my stash of merino is dwindling. I have got some beautiful wool that I could potentially dye and spin. Super fine merino that a client gave me.
Oh.
She's like, what do you think of this? This beautiful, beautiful client. She's like, let me know if it's any good. And I was just like, oh. It's beautiful, yes. So fine that I couldn't send it to any of the mills that still spin wool around in Australia, because they're like, oh, that's too fine for us to spin.
Wow.
Yeah. I could do something.
So interesting that you do in your life the things that I have been researching years ago and never did anything with it.
Yeah.
And still there is this longing, and it's getting stronger lately. I talked about being a digital vegan last week or
Yes.
the week before,
Yeah.
and I've been practicing living more, I would say analog living,
Yeah.
which is not easy in how the world is at the moment. But this longing is there, and I find it so interesting that you have Bianca, the abilities and the capacities like weaving and spinning and dyeing and cooking and baking and all of those things that would allow you to live off grid, or at least off digital,
Yeah.
and still thrive.
Yeah. And the really interesting thing is that all through my life, as I've been acquiring those skills, it's like I felt on some level that I had a need to acquire those skills in order to pass them on, in order to share them with other people. It was like, not to say I didn't love doing it myself, but there's something in me that's like, it's my responsibility to hold this knowledge. I've got the skills and I've got the ability to be able to hold this knowledge, and also potentially the ability to pass it on. I haven't really found the forum with which to pass it on, because I don't do so well. I can do a great class, but like to actually like market a class or design a class, or to actually, then my brain just melts down and I'm like, okay, so I have this. So I feel like I'm at this stage in my life where I'm sitting here with this huge overflowing basket of these gifts, which are these skills that I've felt like I've needed to pick up my whole life. And I feel like I'm just sitting here looking around for this. I'm like, okay, so who am I meant to pass these on to? Or what's that? It's like I'm in this pause phase where I'm like, hey, look what I've put in my basket. I've got all this cool stuff. And sometimes I feel like I just go, oh, well, I just put it all in my basket for me. And then other times I go, actually, no. When I think about times in my life where I have thrived the most is when I am passing on those skills and that knowledge that I have accrued and collected. Yeah, so that's interesting that you say that you had wanted that, and I'm like, well, I've got all this. It's just like, now we just need to work out how to do the transfer.
Well, maybe it's also about timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have all the skills and the knowledge, and I kind of sort of wanted that and looked into it and kept on living like we do nowadays, and have this nagging underneath that shows up now. And well, the world is changing anyway. We don't know what direction yet, but there is change all around us. And hopefully we will not collectively go back off grid totally like it was 100 years ago.
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
And hopefully we will grow forward in a natural, symbiotic, harmonic way of living with and on Earth, and not only off Earth.
Yeah.
And that, then your skills will come in really handy. And so what if you skip the marketing stuff, make the courses available,
Yeah.
and those who will require it will find it anyway. Now
It's always,
or later.
it's always the way it's happened in the past. That's just it's in those voids, and I feel like I'm in this really particularly large and pregnant void. That I still I can be pretty impatient, even though I on one level I'm completely aware that I'm in a void and I need to be in it. One part of me is like, right, so how am I doing this? And the other part of me is like, oh, you know, you should be doing this, even though actually I know that it's okay. Actually, I know that any of the courses or the teachings that I've done have just come as a download from start to finish and to fill a course, I have like put out one email, and somehow, I don't know, I don't actually have an email list. This is something that I really need to probably rectify, because I did have a very meager MailChimp email list, but I didn't engage with MailChimp for too long, and I don't seem to have a MailChimp account anymore.
Yeah. And so what if that is all this modern day marketing bullshit we talked about before?
Yeah.
You wearing such a beautiful scarf, you living your life the way you do, people will notice.
Yeah.
And people that want it will ask you about it.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Where did you get it? I made it myself. Can you teach me? Yes, I can. And they will bring a friend or a neighbor or tell a cousin or however that grows organically.
Yeah.
And it can't not, based on the plants you are working with.
Yeah.
They will do the marketing for you the organic way.
Yeah.
And I would love to have a Bianca near me. As much as I can learn from you over the internet, I would love to have someone here in the region that can teach me hands-on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So guys, you heard me?
Yeah.
And also it brings me back to me and doing the inner work and actually start doing things. Like when I research something like ginger, which is supposed to be supportive of health, yet ginger doesn't grow here. And so there's a choice of having ginger from half a globe away, and or find something similar that grows where I live and avoid all these travel miles and all of the garbage that comes with it. So live more locally, like, and if we would strip away everything that is not native to here, it seems like there wouldn't be anything left. Not even tulips. They come from Turkey, not from the Netherlands. Not even potatoes. Potatoes are not native to the Netherlands originally. Now they are. So how far do I want to go with that? And if I choose to start that route, like bananas and oranges and pizza, it's all not native to the Netherlands. It seems like there's nothing left, which is a lie.
Mm.
And it makes very clear that at least I don't know enough about what is here. Like elders, they are considered weeds and they are allowed in unused spaces, or not even allowed, kind of tolerated, like, well, it doesn't bother me here, so leave it be, since chopping it down would be an effort.
Yep.
So what is here that grows in the Netherlands, that is simply available and has the benefits that I'm looking for outside, like bananas and ginger and all of that. And then there's the other choice, how far do I want to go with that? Like living off grid seems like a great ideal. And with all the chemicals in the air, it may not be so healthy to drink rainwater. So should I stay on the water grid? Do I want to convert a bicycle into an energy creating machine and charge batteries by bicycling? Nah, not totally anyway. It would also mean
Maybe you can
closing down.
maybe you can take the batteries to the gym where someone's running on the treadmill.
Yeah, yeah. So how far do I want to go? And then I notice fairly quickly, I'm not really willing to go all that way. I like to have a hot shower as long as I want it. I like to not have to walk for 10 miles to get some water. I like to live in a well-insulated house.
Mm.
It keeps me warm and dry and contains more than I require.
We
Yeah.
we wouldn't have ended up where we are if it wasn't giving us some benefit. So it's very easy to go, oh, this is all terrible, where actually it would be rather challenging to go completely off grid in Europe. Be a lot easier here. I'd get pretty chilly, but I imagine you'd get a lot chillier.
Yeah. And we don't have the space here to be
No. Well, that's
outside of society. It's too cramped here.
well, that's
There.
that. That's the thing, is it's a very I wanted to use a word that's not the right word. Or trigger way too many people. To live in that complete off-grid, rural, rustic environment, we simply can't do that. There are way too many people in the world to be able to do that. We need to be able to preserve our natural spaces so that we can enjoy them in their natural state without people living all through them. So we actually don't want all the people moving out into the wilds. We just need people to be able to respect those wild spaces and to be able to commune with those wild spaces so that the wild spaces within us are not forgotten, and that the wild spaces in us still have space to live. Yet the parts of us that require nurture and comfort and security that allow us to do a whole host of other things. Because if our base needs are met, if our base food, security, housing, warmth, love, needs are met, then we're actually free to contemplate the spiritual nature of reality, and we're free to be able to delve into spaces that we wouldn't be able to if we were ploughing fields by hand, or if we had to go out and subsist in a hunter-gatherer way. We may be engaged with our environment in a different way, but a lot of that mental space that we have freed up, that we waste with ridiculous work, stupid work, the busy work, what makes busy. I think that this whole coronavirus thing is really wonderful because it really shows us what is actually that we need in terms of our security and our food and our housing, and what is just fluff that we have invented to keep us distracted from the fact that we feel empty. So it's like, what can we do? And I think it's that wild. I think it's that deep, passionate connection to those wild spaces in nature and in us that makes us feel, when we don't have that connection, then we feel empty. Lost my train of thought. So
probably the longing to the wild spaces inside, that's where the natural dyes come in, or the spinning, or the preserving food, or whatever it is for whoever.
And yeah, I know she got a bad rap, Marie Kondo, but that idea of going through your house and sitting with something, you know, and if it brings you joy, then keep it, and if it doesn't, thank it and send it on its way. If we did that to our whole lives, you know, to the way that we work, or to the people that we interact with on a daily basis, and do that.
How could you get a bad rap? I mean, I've never seen anyone who actually gets that whole sentience of our environment. It's like you commune with your house. Like, the first thing she does when she turns up to anyone's house to help them clean it is connect with the spirit of the house and ask it permission and thank it for. I'm just like, oh, you're so awesome. And then bring joy. Like, it's like her motto is connect with things and bring joy. But see, that might be considered twee, because apparently people are too cool to feel joy. It's all right. Just let them. Just let them. You go be cool. That's good. I'll have the joy.
Yes. It's that, we were talking about practicing discernment. I think it's a similar thing, right?
Yeah.
Discerning and you know, doing that with the kinds of food that you eat. And it doesn't always have to be what's in season, what's the healthiest thing for me right now, but what is this going to bring me if I eat it?
Yeah.
And there's the joy of chocolate.
Exactly. And coffee and sourdough has been my joy this week.
Yeah. I ran the joy of sourdough a little too much over the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
So I'm not supposed to go to the supermarket, but I can buy a giant bag of flour. And if I was starving and I couldn't actually afford food, I wouldn't be able to go, oh, I can't eat that because it's got gluten in it, because that might make me feel. So I am suffering. I am seeing the wisdom of my naturopathic knowledge of how these things create inflammation and burdens on the body, and I am slightly eating my words, but it did bring me an awful amount of joy and connect me into things. And it's like working at it's a balance. It's a balance, and it's about letting go of the guilt. We put so many layers of guilt on us.
I've had an opportunity to clear some of that with between an old friend and myself. My friend that we have sort of, we've maintained our friendship, but it's been a little not as close as it used to be. And we had a good one-to-one chat the other day, particularly since COVID, we've caught up in group chats, but we had our first one-on-one yesterday, and then she sent me a message and apologized for behaving a certain way back when. And it was just really, I think she'd carried some shame and I'd carried some guilt. It was kind of this two-way sort of thing that led to this behavior that was really, anyway, it's story, but to clear that was beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. That guilt. So yes, that we've both carried, for 20 years.
It's big, isn't it? How we let ourselves carry this guilt and what that does. Like, I mean, if you observe what happens when you're feeling guilty about something, and then you are about to enter a situation where that guilt is triggered, what happens to you inside, and how we shrink, or we recoil, or we react. We make it like we act in a way that's not in alignment with who we are, but to put on some bravado to protect, convince ourselves that recoiling is not happening. It really, I mean, it's in essence the entire reason why the world is fucked up. Because we allow ourselves to carry that because we're too scared to face it, because it might feel more uncomfortable in the short term.
Yeah.
And how much do we miss out on? How nice was it to shift that between you and...
Yeah. And acknowledge the growth that we've both been through in that time too. And that we didn't have the skills then, and that's why the situation got to where it got to. Yeah, it was really great. Really great. Yeah.
That's the perfect, like, we didn't have the skills. Like, that's what happens when we put things away, because we don't have the skills. So we put them away, and then we don't ever visit them often because we assume that we still don't have the skills. But so often it's actually so much easier to deal with it because, I am a different person. I have got all these skills. I can deal with that now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That was so much easier to unpack than I thought it was going to be.
Yes. Yeah. So that, it feels good.
Awesome. Perfect timing too.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, perfect timing.
Hey. Oh. There it is. There's that.
That happy silence.
That happy silence. Yep, that joyful silence that has descended. Maybe we can just sit in that for, wow, if we sat in that for 5 minutes and said goodbye, we would actually keep to our time limit. That would feel perfect. Thank you, beautifuls. That was very nice.
Yes, thank you.
I'll let you drift with that joyful silence into your evening and into your day. And
You too.
I look forward to chatting next week.
Yeah. Well, thanks
too.
again. I enjoyed it once more
Yeah.
Yay.
and looking forward to next week.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And enjoy your spring.
Mm.
Yay. I'm going to go and see what chocolate my children have been. I've heard some
Awesome.
scurrying to the cupboard and back whilst they're asleep.
Happy investigating.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.